Hey there. So, there are a lot of cool characters that have come out and are going to be coming out that I just haven't done a review on, and unfortunately, many of them aren't going to end up getting covered with the new format and everything else. So, you might think I might be focusing my time and attention on the big name characters like King Black Bolt, or maybe the leaders and new leaders like Mad Maximus, but they don't excite me nearly as much as the Goat Man. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. So, Gorgon is a character lore-wise I am not super experienced with, but I love Greek mythology. Apparently, the writer who first wrote up Gorgon wasn't as familiar since they named the character who looks like a satyr after three sisters who are more often associated with snakes. Alas. However, I have recently had the chance to play Gorgon a decent bit after drafting him in a What If League. If you are unfamiliar with the format, it's kind of like fantasy football draft, but for MCP characters, with the added bonus that anyone can be affiliated anywhere. Much like in the comic runs and the show more recently that has Thanos and T'Challa take to the field as Guardians of the Galaxy, or maybe what if to be a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. you needed to have a shield throw. So, a really fun and often goofy experience where the draft is just as much fun as the games being played. If you want to run it locally, I left a link to the rules made by and used at Adepticon down in the description. Anyways, I picked Gorgon up, and he has been a sneaky MVP 3 threat for me. His base stat block is already off to a good start. 6 health and 4 physical defense, putting him a slight step above the normal 3 threat curve, is a healthy place to be. The medium move on a small base is again average, but we have seen brawler characters on a short move before, so this is just fine. His first attack is a pretty standard builder with the added bonus of a wild stun. While not an immediately debilitating condition to hand out, some characters really just can't function well after it's on. So, a solid builder. He then also has an energy beam attack courtesy of the Goat Hooves. It's a range 3 beam with 4 strength, and once again, a nice condition that can be applied on a wild. This time, a shock that can be quite good for a character who, at least part of his role, is to be bodyguard to the Inhuman royal family. This attack doesn't seem too impressive on the surface, like one could almost look at it and think it should be a gainer, but I think it's perfectly fine where it is, and I'll talk a little bit more on that after we know everything else going on with this card. His spender being one of the immediate reasons Gorgon doesn't need access to a lot of easy power generation. God Crusher, which almost looks like Goo Crusher, and I kind of prefer it anyway, is a range 3, 8 die, 4 power attack that guarantees a size 4 character throw away short. And in case they live through it, you can also stagger the target if you land a wild. This is one heck of an impactful spender for a 3 threat. Guaranteed control is a big one. Being able to use it on opponents' larger characters as a bowling ball is even bigger win. And the stagger is really just a sweet cherry on top. It being an 8 strength attack should also not go under the radar because that is quite the powerful swing even for a 3 threat spender. And his superpowers only make this attack more menacing. Charge most of all. 2 power and an action to make a move action and an attack action is, well, still one of the best kinds of abilities in the game. The fact that this charge doesn't have any fancy things attached to it means that Gorgon is able to use any of his attacks, and it keeps the cost low enough that he'll pretty much always have access to it. The basic idea of being able to charge with your builder is already good, but being able to drop 6 power to move medium and then have a range 3 attack to throw out a very potent spender gives him some reach that wouldn't be expected unless you have seen it before. This charge is also part 1 of why his beam attack doesn't need any additional help. Gorgon is currently the only character who can charge and then use a beam off of the charge in question. Sure, there are hit and run characters like Crossbones 2 and Iceman, but getting a perfect beam lined up the first time and getting off 2 beams is very strong. And I'll skip ahead just a bit on his card to call out the other reason his beam doesn't need any glow up, or why all of his attacks are better than just what they look. He is an inhuman, and as a birthright of being an inhuman, apparently, he gets a reroll on all of his attack and defense dice. So the spike potential isn't as high, getting to roll 5 dice on all of the beams. The overall consistency means it might as well be, though. It also comes with being immune to poison, which is cool, but not vital. The one thing on his card I haven't talked about yet is something that is pretty core to his identity, and that is his taunt. His is specifically called "You're going to have to deal with me first." When an enemy character within range 2 attacks another character, Gorgon can taunt that attack towards him instead. Attack redirection is a really powerful ability, so much so that aside from Mephisto's unique and kind of costly version of it, we haven't had a character with this ability printed in more than 2 years. Sure, we have Team Tactic card versions like Namor's Princess Protection, but there are becoming fewer and fewer characters that have it as just a built in superpower. Also, to continue the trend of Gorgon being a character of firsts, Gorgon is the first to have the very desirable combination of a charge and a taunt. So let's go ahead and get to just general character overview before I keep gushing. It's worth noting that Gorgon does go down to 5 stamina on his injured side, but that is his only change. I really don't know how else to pitch this character to you outside of he does a bit of everything you could really want. He has built-in consistency with the reroll, plus just good stats in the first place. He has action economy with the charge. He gives out several meaningful conditions. He has displacement on a size 4 character. He has attack redirection with the taunt. And again, he has the really gross combination of having a taunt and a charge. That combination being you charge up, you smack somebody, and now they're also in that taunting range. If you want more out of your 3 threat characters, I don't know how to help you. At the same time, I don't think AMG pushed him too far over the edge. He doesn't have a terrain throw as an extra source of damage output. His beam isn't a gainer, because if it was, again, it would be pretty rare to see his mace getting used, in my opinion. I think this is about the perfectly balanced 3 threat brawler that also has the taunt built in. To top it all off, he does have quite the team tactic card in his pocket, Royal Guardians. It's a card that either he or Karnak, I guess, can spend 3 to play when an ally within 3 is targeted by an attack. Gorgon, or Karnak, is then placed within range 1 of the defender and then becomes the target of the attack in question. If Gorgon doesn't end up getting dazed or KO'd by the attacker then gets both the shock and stun conditions. Karnak does cool stuff too, but we're here for the Satyr. The ability to hand out a couple of meaningful conditions is already valuable, as is the target manipulation that this card provides. A really gross potential for this card, though, is being able to shock an enemy mid area or beam attack. A 5 die beam can deal out some damage, and if the attacker is lined up to do it twice, that's a lot of dice. However, suddenly being shocked mid beam or area attack throws that moth off a pretty decent bit. So, as much as Heroes for Hire is stapled to Luke and Danny, Royal Guardians needs to be in Gorgon's pocket at all times. As far as affiliations go, Gorgon is just an inhuman and will do great things under Black Bolt's leadership. He can either be swimming in power and donate a bit when he doesn't need it, or when it's time to charge and spender, he can take some from his buddies. I also think Medusa's new leadership would be a great home for him. Getting healing, positioning, and power are all things a character with target manipulation really wants to have. And because that positioning is very, very important, I would be a bit hesitant to use him under Mad Max's leadership. I may be overplaying the consequences of the range 1 place, especially with the redundancy that Gorgon has with the charge and Royal Guardians to manipulate where he is on the board, but I also know how important having a character with target manipulation in the right place is. Other affiliations that I think would do well to add him as a honorary member. The first one that comes to mind is Miles's Web Warriors. He offers a lot of tools that the webs don't have access to and would appreciate, and him benefiting from the ability to modify skulls for his Inhuman reroll and getting an extra reroll in defense all sounds like just great things. He would also similarly probably work quite well under Discount Steve, as getting to do his superpowers for 1 less lets him get off his spender that much more often and pretty much always has him online for his taunt. And if you already have one character managing to annoy your opponents with the target manipulation, why not have a second? So those are my initial thoughts after getting to play with Gorgon a few times now, and I am a big fan of this character. So as we reach the end of this video, thank you all for coming back and checking out another Gamer Guild video. I want to take a moment to thank the guild sponsor, Game Chef, for continuing to support the efforts made by me in the video realm, as well as the efforts of the podcast team. If you are shopping online in the US, please consider doing so with Game Chefs. Shipping is always free, and you can use the promo code Gamers Guild, no spaces, for 15% off of your purchase. Along with that, I want to say thank you to the very generous people who are and have continuing to just support the Gamers Guild on Patreon. Your contributions very genuinely help keep the podcast going by helping take care of the fees and costs associated with that. And I cannot thank you all enough for that continued support. If you enjoy what I or the podcast do, I would encourage you to look at donating even just $1 a month as a way to help us out. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.